Hey guys, it's Jeff from Pressure Luck, and man, I am so exhausted, but in a good way, a great way. I just had a new cookbook come out, I've been doing book tours, it's been wonderful, and I wanted to do a dish because I'm obsessed with noodles in general. That's one of my favorite things in the world, Singapore noodles. Have you ever had these before? If you haven't, you can get them at a lot of Chinese takeout places and many other Asian restaurants. It's kind of like an Asian fusion dish. It's basically noodles with some vegetables in there, onions, peppers, some cabbage, and you can add protein like chicken or shrimp, and it's finished off with this wonderful like curry powder type touch to it where it gives it this gorgeous yellow color and this nice zesty flavor. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite things ever. But instead of using traditional style rice noodles, like, you know, the really thin angel hair ones for this, what we would use like a mei fun, like a chow mei fun, we're gonna use spaghetti. So guys, we're gonna see how easy this is to do. Make Singapore spaghetti in the Instant Pot with ingredients you can get from any market. Right to the Instant Pot we go. Singapore sling. Well, maybe pair this with a Singapore sling when it's done. You know what I mean, let's do it. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take a white or a yellow onion, and I want to slice it up long ways and into strands that are about 1/4 inch thick, or strips. Strand, strips, you know what I mean. Alright, let's move on. Let's focus on some peppers. I want to take a large red bell pepper, and for some spice, because this noodle dish does have a bit of spice in it, although it's completely optional, you don't have to add them, about 2 to 3 jalapenos. These are pretty small, so I'm putting 3 in there. You can also use like a red chili pepper, a serrano pepper. I mean, habanero is really gonna get you, but I wouldn't go that far. I mean, if you want to use the jalapenos, add about 2 to 3. If not, just leave them out and just use 1 red bell pepper, or maybe even a red bell pepper and 1 green bell pepper. And I'm gonna slice these up into also about 1/4 inch strips. By about 1 inch long, so if it's like a longer strand there when you slice your bell pepper, just cut the strand in half. Same with like the jalapeno, although it's already not as quite as long as a bell pepper. And there you have it, just like that. Alright, next veggie. Okay, so in an Asian or Asian style noodle dish, we typically have some sort of element of greens, like bok choy, or in cabbage, in this case, Napa cabbage. It's like an oblong cabbage. You can find it in basically any market in the cabbage section. Yes, there is different cabbages. You have your classic green, you have your red, you have Savoy sometimes, and you have Napa. So what I want to do is I want to take between 1 to 2 pounds of that, and I just want to, basically, you see this part here, this hard core? Just like chop off the bottom. That's fine, let that go away. And then take the leaves and just basically rip off the green parts. I just do this by hand. I think it's much easier. And then I toss it in a bowl. I don't really want to use the hard, stalky parts here. I just want to use like the greenery part. So I'm just going to rip it off literally by hand. It's going to wilt into nothing when we saute it. And of course, you know, rinse this when it's all done. Could be some dirt between those leaves. See that I'm just peeling layer by layer and just ripping off the edges just like this. And then adding it to a bowl, and then just discarding this harder, firmer spot. And now I have all my cabbage nice and torn by hand and put into a bowl. Again, a lot of that cabbage weight, if we had a 2-pound cabbage, is going to decrease from not putting all those heavier, more thicker, harder, stalky parts in there. Or I should say veins. Okay, now let's move on to the pot. Alright, so let's get cooking. To the Instant Pot, we're going to add in 1/4 cup of chili oil. Try to get a kind that has enough oil in there, and not just all of the wonderful, amazing pepper flakes as well, but a kind of a healthy balance between the two. Or you can just get an oil that just has oil and no pepper flakes. There are different variations in your market. You can go to any supermarket in the Asian section, or an Asian market, or an international market, anything like that, or even online, anything. You can get stuff anywhere these days. But this stuff is pretty easy to find. 1/4 cup. You see that? That's a nice balance. Let's give that some heat. So we're going to come down on our control panel and we're going to hit the saute button, and we're going to make sure we're on the more or the high setting. Alright, and after about 3 minutes of our oil heating up in our pot, we're going to add in just our onions and our peppers. And we're going to saute these veggies in the oil for about 3 to 5 minutes until they soften a bit. We don't want them to be super soft, but we don't want them to be super firm either. We want them to have a little bit of some softness to them. And I'll tell you why in just a second. Ah, look at that. As soon as you toss the veggies with that gorgeous chili oil, they become this gorgeous color of red. It's very vibrant, and it already makes me hungry. By the way, if you don't want this spicy, you don't have to use the chili oil. You can just use 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Let this saute for about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, so after about 3 to 5 minutes of sauteing, what I want to then do is take a slotted spoon and remove all the veggies that are currently in the pot. We want to make sure that the onion and peppers in this dish are kind of substantial. We don't want them to get really soft when we pressure cook. So I'm going to use a slotted spoon and remove them to a bowl. See that? Lovely. Alright, now I'm just going to set these veggies aside and let them rest. Now I want to go back to the pot and I want to add in 2 more tablespoons of that chili oil. And after about a minute of that heating up, I want to add in my cabbage. And 5 to 10 ounces of shiitake mushrooms that are sliced. You can also use about 8 to 16 ounces of baby bella mushrooms, but I feel like shiitake are best in this situation. And now I immediately just want to stir everything up in the pot. The cabbage is going to wilt very quickly, and the mushrooms and everything are going to absorb all the chili oil here. I'm going to stir this around for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just really make sure you toss the veggies here, the cabbage and the mushrooms, in the chili oil. And you see what I mean? The heat of the pot is making the cabbage wilt down significantly. But you're also going to notice the bottom of the pot is going to begin to brown. You see all that caked on there? Okay, so here comes our next step. We want to add in 2 tablespoons of Shaoqing, which is a Chinese cooking wine, or you can just use sherry wine. That's fine. Either one of those will work. And now deglaze the bottom of that pot. You see that? All the brownness is coming right up. Comes right up when you scrape the bottom. And make sure we do that for the whole bottom of the pot. Nice and clear it should be. Then I'm going to add in another 2 tablespoons. Really make sure we deglaze the whole bottom of the pot. Nothing should be stuck on there. Look at that. It's like magic. It comes right off. Alright, now if you don't want to use wine, that's just fine. You could add a little broth in here to do that, although nothing will deglaze as well as the wine will. Or even a Worcestershire sauce, which we wouldn't typically use in a dish like this, but if you want to, feel free to add that instead. Now we're going to add in 3 cloves or a tablespoon of crushed or minced garlic, and then just stir that in with everything else. And you see everything is reduced down in terms of the cabbage. The mushrooms are cooking nicely. The bottom of the pot is completely smooth. That's key here. We must make sure the bottom of that pot is free and clear, or we're going to have issues come into pressure. Alright, we are looking great. Now I'm going to add in 4 cups of broth. You can use any of your choice, be it garlic broth, onion broth, chicken broth, vegetable broth, whatever you want. And we're also going to add in 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can use low sodium, which I am, or tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce, or coconut aminos, which is gluten and soy-free. And it tastes very similar to soy sauce, a little sweeter. And then just give everything a stir. Scrape the sides of the pot if any of the veggies are up there. Want to make sure they're in the liquid as best as possible. And then just stir that up nicely. Alright. And now it is time to add in our spaghetti. I'm going to add an entire box, or a pound, and I'm going to break it in half. I know it's sacrilegious for some to witness this, but you have to make it fit and cook properly. Plus, this is an Asian dish. We're not doing it Italian style, so hopefully the nonas won't come after me too badly. I'm going to crack in my spaghetti in half like that. It also makes more portions, and it's still going to be plenty long, by the way. Add it to the pot. And we will do this in a crisscross fashion. Now we're going to take our mixing spoon or a wooden spatula or whatever and just kind of press down on the spaghetti so it's mostly submerged in the pot. Just like that. There's a lot of oil in there right now, so it should be nice and slicked up. It'll be fine. It shouldn't stick together too badly, and even if it does, at the end we'll be able to separate it very easily. And you'll see some of the spaghetti might peek above the broth. That's fine. Okay, now we're going to pressure cook. I'm going to secure my lid. Make sure the valve is in the sealing position. So we'll come down here. We're going to switch gears. I'm going to hit the cancel button, and then I am going to hit my pressure cooker manual button, and I want to go for 8 minutes at high pressure, and that's it. And now that we're done pressure cooking, we're going to perform a quick release. Alright, and the pin just dropped. I'm going to take the lid off the pot. Alright, and here's where the magic happens. I'm going to get in there, give everything a good stir. You'll see the noodles will have cooked perfectly. You see this? Ugh, my fan does not work, so pardon me while I have to air everything out in front of the lens. And you'll see, like I said, the noodles will have cooked super well. If they look like they're a little fused together, it's very simple. You just get in there, like I like to use a spatula for this, and you just give them a little bit of a vigorous push, and they'll separate. And if some noodles do appear al dente, don't worry. It's all gonna work out. It's all going to be perfect because we have some final touches to put on this. The secret to separating the spaghetti after it cooks is to really just keep stirring it around for a little bit. Now we're gonna give this pot some more heat. So now I'll hit the cancel button, and then I want to hit the saute button and make sure I'm in the more or high setting. And I'm going to add in, because I love this in my noodles, especially Singapore noodles, some egg. I'm taking 2 large eggs that I've just beaten together lightly, and I'm just going to add it to the pot. Now that everything's heating up in there again on saute, pour it over the noodles. And also, if you wanted to add shrimp to this dish, you can add about 1 to 2 pounds of it now. Just make sure that it's raw and thawed. And then you're gonna stir it around. We're gonna do this for about 3 or so minutes until the egg fully cooks, which will happen very quickly because of how hot everything is in the pot. And you'll see there's not much liquid remaining, which is exactly what we wanted in terms of the broth. All right, and you see, after about 3 minutes of my egg heating up with the pot and me stirring it around, it's gonna cook. You see some egg whites forming in there, some ribbons. Perfect, that's what we want. Lovely. And if we were adding shrimp, it's done very quickly, just as fast as the egg. As long as the shrimp tails are curled and they become opaque, it's done. You don't want to overdo it. And our final touch is 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce. No, it doesn't really taste like oysters. And 1 tablespoon of hoisin sauce. And our secret ingredient, curry powder. 2 tablespoons of curry powder, any type. Whether hot or regular, Jamaican style, it doesn't make a difference. And we're gonna add our veggies back to the pot that we reserved, our peppers and our onions. And I'm gonna kill the heat on the pot, and I'm gonna stir all of this together. All together now. All the curry powder, all the sauces, everything gets a nice big stir. Oh, it's gotta smell good because Banjo's coming up. Just keep stirring that around in there. And this, my friends, is Singapore spaghetti. Oh boy, that looks amazing. All right, and here we go. Whoops, my mixing spoon right on the floor. Maybe just a little more peppers and onions in there. Oh, yes. And that, my friends, is a finished dish, and it smells heavenly, just like Singapore noodles. Now grab some chopsticks or a fork, because we're about to dig in. All right, let's try this out. Look at how beautiful this looks. Like Singapore noodles, except it's spaghetti. I love using chopsticks too with noodles, so bear with me on this. Here we go. Oh boy. It tastes just like my favorite Singapore noodles. I mean, these might be my new favorite Singapore noodles. Spaghetti. Singapore spaghetti now. It's... flavors. Now, it's not an overpowering curry experience. If you like a little bit of a curry flavor, this is the right amount. If you don't want the curry in there, I guess you could leave it out, but it definitely wouldn't be Singapore noodles. I mean, it wouldn't have that beautiful coloring to it that I come to know and love, at least when I eat this dish. It's funny how the color of a food can just make me extra excited about it. My glasses are fogging up a little bit. I'm gonna take them off. Look at this, the veggies. I got my onion and peppers in there, my mushrooms. Oh, it's good. It's a little spicy. I'm just letting you know that. So it's with the chili oil in there, and we have some jalapeno. If you don't want it spicy, simply use regular vegetable oil instead of chili oil, and don't add the jalapenos. The curry powder, if you want that in there, which you obviously should, in my opinion, it's Singapore noodles after all, it's kind of the key ingredient, you can use one that's not as spicy. So this is a Jamaican style curry powder, and it's a little spicier, so it's up to you. And if you want it spicier, you can go a little crazy. You could add some chili garlic sauce. That's this stuff right here, or some sriracha, whatever you want. There are no rules, it's your dish, it's your kitchen. Have fun by seasoning it up however you want. Normally, like I said, it's like a chow mein fun or a very thin angel hair like rice noodle. But I like the spaghetti, I like the thick noodle. This works really well. I'm just gonna keep eating this. This is just that, it's just, oodles and noodles. And I really do think it makes a big difference in this situation to reserve those onions and peppers after you saute them, because they do have a little bit of a nice bite to them here, as opposed to just kind of this, you know, they have a tendency to just become very, very soft when they're pressure cooked, which is fine, but in this dish, I like them to stand out with a little bit of crunch. Perfect. Especially since they have that hot chili oil flavor to them, it's divine. All right, all right. Got a dab. My friends, if you enjoyed these recipes, check out PressureLoveCooking.com, my website, because I have a ton of recipes there. Also, I wrote 3 cookbooks, and each one of them is a bestseller. This is my newest baby, the Simple Comfort Step-by-Step Instant Pot Cookbook. It's the yellow one, we'll call it. There's also the orange one, which is the original, and the blue one, which is the lighter. But I'm going to focus on this one right now. Every recipe in my books has beautiful color step-by-step photos, so there's no guessing, as well as a final shot of what every recipe should look like. Timing bars, I got you covered. You want these books. Anywhere books are sold. Check out Facebook.com/PressureLoveCooking and like that page anytime a new recipe comes out or anything you might want to know. I've been doing some book signings. Maybe if more of those pop up, you'll know about that. And at Pressure Love Cooking on all the other social channels, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. Thanks so much again, guys. And next time you're hungry and you want something that's really, really fantastic and full of flavor with a little bit of spice in there, just remember, when it rains, it's Singapore's. Enjoy.